I surprised my girlfriend by taking her to Cincinnati to visit the Newport Aquarium. I wanted a break from my parents' house, so I booked an Airbnb on the edge of town. For the weekend, the pictures of the apartment looked nice, and we were both excited to explore the town and have some time to ourselves. However, when we arrived, we were a bit disappointed with the condition of the place. Besides the trash left behind by the previous guests, it was clear that the hosts had carefully chosen the pictures they posted online. The apartment looked much older than we expected and was mostly empty. The walls had cracks and the paint was peeling. In some places, there was hardly any furniture, just the essentials: a bed, a worn-out couch, and a few basic kitchen appliances like a small fridge and a microwave. I inspected the bed for bed bugs, made sure there was no mold, and checked that all the locks on the doors worked properly. Then I went to the bathroom, which was in bad shape and clearly needed a lot of work. The shower had stains that looked old, the toilet barely flushed, and the sink had very low water pressure. The mirror was chipped and the tiles on the floor were cracked. It was clear that this was not the perfect weekend getaway we had imagined. The place was far from what we expected. After our first day of exploring the town, we were both exhausted and got into bed about an hour later. As I was tossing and turning, I realized I needed to use the bathroom. When I went in, I sat down on the toilet and took out my phone to scroll through social media. That's when I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. I saw something moving. It was a little unsettling, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was at first. So I looked up from my phone and saw that the bathroom door had opened on its own and was slowly moving until it stopped with a creak against the shower curtain. I froze for a moment, trying to figure out what was going on, and thought it might just be a draft. I was convinced that was the reason, until I noticed that the shower was now running. The loud sound of water rushing out of the shower scared me. Sitting on the toilet with my pants around my ankles, I was terrified and couldn't move. After about 7 seconds, I finally stood up and turned off the shower. Shaking, I went back to my room and locked the door behind me. My girlfriend, who had slept through the whole event, woke up when she heard me rushing to close the door. I told her everything that had happened, from the door moving on its own to the shower turning on by itself. I was so shaken that I couldn't calm down. My mind was racing all night and I was too scared to sleep. I kept my eyes fixed on the door as if expecting something else to happen. I buried myself under the blankets, pulling them tightly around me, and covered my ears to block out any sounds. I was trying hard to convince myself that nothing else would happen, but I was still terrified. I managed to get through the night, and when the sun came up, I felt brave enough to check things out. I had left the bathroom door open, forgotten to flush the toilet, and the tap was still dripping. As I had rushed out so quickly, I couldn't figure out why the shower turned on by itself. But the experience made me question things I hadn't believed in before. I've become more open to the idea that there might be things we can't see or understand around us. I'm generally skeptical about the paranormal, even though I have a strong interest in ghost stories and supposed evidence of ghosts. I enjoy watching ghost hunter videos and reading creepy posts on paranormal. I've also visited many places in the US that are said to be haunted. Some of the places I've been to include the Omni Parker House in Boston, which is famous for ghost sightings, the Molly Brown House in Denver, the Way House in San Diego, often called one of the most haunted houses in America, where people claim to hear unexplained noises, even though none of these places have ever given me any real evidence of ghosts. Part of me wants to believe, but I'm also scared of actually seeing something paranormal. I was mostly a non-believer until a few months ago. To explain, I was planning a surprise party and a getaway for my girlfriend's 30th birthday. She had mentioned wanting to go skiing since it was January. So I planned everything months in advance and invited some of her closest friends to join us. I rented an Airbnb cabin that had enough space for 10 people. The cabin had a whole basement floor with 2 beds, one room on the first floor, and 3 rooms upstairs. The cabin was in a beautiful rural area in Tahoe, California, with lots of other cabins nearby. And along the street, there was plenty of other houses around us, and nothing seemed strange about the place. Other people were also staying nearby. My girlfriend and I took the master bedroom upstairs right across the hall. Another couple was staying in one room, and my girlfriend's cousin was in the 3rd room next door by herself. All the rooms were taken, and the middle floor was a lively area with games, a fireplace, and a foosball table. The first night was full of fun, with lots of drinking and games to celebrate. We decorated the living area with streamers and scattered balloons around the large, nice living room and family room. Where everyone gathered, we laughed, played games, and enjoyed each other's company. It was a great time, and almost nothing unusual or strange happened that night, except toward the end of the night, some balloons started popping. At random times, someone in our group said it was because the balloons were getting too close to the heater vents, but I didn't think that was the reason, as not all the balloons that popped were near the vents, so I just simply took note of it be and didn't want to argue or suggest anything strange was going on. In the following morning, there were still plenty of balloons left now. Fast forward to the second night after we returned from our day in the snow. We got ready for more drinking and fun. Just like the night before, after a full day of skiing, we were all tired and decided to go to bed earlier, around 11:30 or midnight. This is when I personally experienced something that made me feel uneasy. Since it was cold, I decided to go downstairs to turn on the thermostat and heater. Then I noticed the couple across the hall had their door slightly open, their lights were on, and someone was using the bathroom as I went downstairs. In the dark stairwell, I heard the floorboards creaking behind me and thought it was one of my friends coming out to get a drink or go to the kitchen. When I reached the living room and stopped at the thermostat, the lights were still off and the creaking continued. Then I heard it stop a few feet behind me, near the kitchen. The kitchen lights wouldn't turn on, and I didn't hear anything else. I felt like someone was waiting behind me and watching me. So I said, "What's up, dude? Need something?" When I turned around, no one was there. I had only read about the feeling of being watched, but it was truly frightening to experience it in person. Then a minute earlier, I could have sworn someone followed me downstairs. I was surprised, and being skeptical, just noted it and said nothing. I went back upstairs. About 30 minutes later, it was still cold since everyone was asleep. I decided to turn up the thermostat a little, not too much. I turned on the hallway light upstairs so I could see the steps from downstairs. Then I went downstairs again and stopped at the thermostat. This time, I only heard my own footsteps and no creaking as I was adjusting the thermostat and thinking about how strange the creaking had been earlier. I heard a noise that interrupted my thoughts. The ball from the foosball table, which was several feet away, near the fireplace, rolled across the table and hit one of the side walls. Nobody was around, and I was too far from the foosball table to have touched the ball myself. I was really scared and didn't know what to think. I quickly went back upstairs to my room and tried to go to sleep. Even though my mind was racing with the strange things that had happened, I decided not to wake anyone up or tell them about what I had experienced, hoping it was just my imagination. The next morning, as we were leaving and driving back home, my girlfriend's friend, the couple who stayed across the hall, brought up the balloons. I saw this as a chance to talk about what happened to me and shared my experiences. When I mentioned this, my girlfriend's friend went pale, became serious, and told us that the night before, while she was still awake, she saw a dark figure standing at the foot of her bed. She said she went into a panic when she blinked and realized the dark figure wasn't a dream or a hallucination. She shook her boyfriend awake, the same person I thought followed me downstairs earlier, but by then the figure had vanished. I was really surprised to hear this from her. My girlfriend's cousin, who stayed in the room next to ours, then mentioned that she heard what sounded like breathing in her room, but thought it was just the cabin's normal noises on their own. These events might seem normal or have other explanations, but together, it's hard to ignore that something strange was happening. I hope this is the last time I have any encounters with the paranormal, as I really don't want to experience anything like this again.